Um, Thank you, Mr. Thomas Young, Professor Young, for being here with us today. We are going to start in just a few minutes. I'm just going to introduce yourself. Yes. We have from Memorial University, Mr. Thomas Young, who is going to talk about environment and sustainability. Y entonces esperemos que les pueda agradar muchísimo esta sesión. Y sin más por el momento, vamos a iniciar. Hello, Thomas. Nice to meet you again.
You as well. Sorry, my internet connection is a little bit slow, so hopefully I don't get cut out here, but I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Just when you tell us you can start, and y vamos a comenzar, estudiante.
Perfect. So I'm good to start?
Yes.
Excellent, perfect. So hi everyone, as our hosts have said, my name is Thomas Young and I am from Memorial University of Newfoundland. Specifically, I'm here from Memorial's Grenfell Campus, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that means in a few minutes. But let me just get my screen share on the go here and we will get started. Just a moment now. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see this. If not, I'm sure the folks at CHEM will let me know. So Memorial University is a comprehensive mainly undergraduate university, though we do offer some graduate programs. I'm only going to be talking about our undergraduate programs here today. However, if you do have questions about our grad programs, you can email us at sgs@mun.ca and they'll be able to answer those questions. Just to give you a quick overview of Memorial University of Newfoundland and some of what we have to offer. We have two main campuses. One is the St. John's campus and the other is the Grenfell campus. Both campuses offer a wide variety of programs. Mainly, most of our programs are offered through St. John's, although our Grenfell campus does offer a number of unique programs, including the Bachelor of Environment and Sustainability, which is, of course, the main focus of what we'll be talking about today. In terms of location, we are located in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So if you look at the map of Canada, there's a large, almost kind of H-shaped island just off the east coast. That's where we're located, and the two campuses are located on either side, with St. John's being on the east coast, Grenfell being on the west coast. In terms of, I guess, just talking a little bit about Newfoundland and what that means, to come here and study. We are the easternmost province and we are an island, so we are a little bit detached from Canada. We've got that little body of water between us and the rest of Canada. However, we are very much still a part of Canada. We are Canadian citizens, there's no question there. Upon graduation, you will be eligible for your postgrad work permit and all of these sorts of things that you typically would be with any sort of other Canadian institution. So there's no fear there. Just keep in mind, we are on an island, so you can't just get in your car and drive to Toronto for the weekend. You would have to fly there if you did want to go to, say, Niagara Falls or Quebec or other parts of Canada. In terms of climate, obviously, being in Canada, it is quite cold here. Looking out my window, it's quite snowy today. It's around -7 degrees, which I realize is a little bit maybe intimidating to a lot of students. However, if you compare our temperatures and our climate to other parts of Canada, we actually have a very moderate climate. So what the reason for that, because we're located on the ocean, our temperature range is less extreme, but we get a little bit more precipitation. So while in the winter here, it's maybe -10 to 0 degrees, in places like Ottawa or Edmonton or Quebec, you're probably looking at temperatures down, -20, -30. So it's significantly warmer here than other parts of Canada. Obviously still quite cold, but a little bit more moderate if you're not looking to go into total climate shock by getting an international education. Our summers are a fair bit warmer, usually in the range of 20 to 30 degrees. I realize again that it's probably a little bit cooler than maybe what you're used to for the summertime. However, because of the humidity and the heat, the type of heat that we have, it actually feels a fair bit warmer than what it actually is. So it is quite a nice feeling to be here in the summer. The way I always tell students, we basically have four different the Newfoundland is 4 different places depending on the time of year that you come, because we have 4 different seasons. So you have your spring, summer, winter, and fall, and each season presents a completely new environment for you to explore and live in. The other thing I tell students is that, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. If you are still, after hearing that, worried about the climate or the temperature or anything like that, as long as you're prepared for that climate, you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to adapt and enjoy the climate while you're here. And both of our campuses do offer programs that will kind of help you adapt to the climate, as you begin your studies and throughout. The other main point I would highlight with both campuses is that Newfoundland is a very safe, very welcoming, very clean province. Canada has a reputation for being among the safest and most welcoming countries in the world. I've heard students in the past describe Newfoundland as Canada's Canada. Because we have a small population and everyone is so open and welcoming, it's a very safe sort of location. Our crime rate is virtually non-existent. Our violent crime rate is even lower. Growing up, I very, very rarely locked my doors. So you can kind of, come here and expect a fairly safe, welcoming environment relative to maybe a larger center. A little bit about the two campuses specifically. As I mentioned, I'm mainly going to talk about Grenfell, but I will give a quick introduction to the St. John's campus just for your information. They are the larger of the two campuses, and they offer a variety of programs in arts, business, engineering sciences, social sciences, nursing, medicine, and pharmacy, as it says on the screen here. Basically, it's kind of like our administrative hub as a university. So that is where most of our campus programs are offered. We do have about 15,000 students at the St. John's campus from over 115 different countries. Being located in St. John's has a city population of 100,000. So if you're looking for a more typical sort of urban traditional university environment, then St. John's is likely where you're going to want to study, just because it is that sort of traditional university. You're looking at larger class sizes for your first year, maybe a couple hundred students each. But once you get to the second and third and fourth year, then your class size will shrink per year. And that's just standard procedure for most universities. Campus is located directly in the center of town. The mall is 5 minutes that way. The hospital is 5 minutes that way. And then anything else you need is a 10-minute bus ride, basically, in any of the directions around you. So very, very safe, very accessible city. However, I'm mainly going to be talking about Grenfell Campus. Grenfell Campus is much smaller. It has about 1,400 students in a city of about 20,000 people. I'm actually located myself in the city of Corner Brook, where the Grenfell Campus is located. I've lived here basically my whole life. I moved here when I was maybe 2 or 3 years old. Even because it's so small and so rurally located, of course, all the things that I said earlier about being small and safe and welcoming, those all apply, especially at the Grenfell campus, because everything is just so close together, and so it's kind of a more familial environment than the St. John's campus. Class sizes tend to be significantly smaller. Our average class size is 17 students. Typically in your first year, you will find that most courses have around 30 students. Once you get to your second and third year, that size will shrink down to maybe 15 to 17, maybe even as low as 5, maybe even less. I did a history degree at Grenfell myself. My smallest class had 4 people, which was great because I got to know my classmates, but more importantly, I got to know my professors really well, and I'm still on a first name basis with most of those professors and still regularly keep in contact with them. So it's great for building a CV and getting that sort of more individualized attention than you would at, say, a larger university. We offer degrees in arts, business, fine arts, sciences, social sciences, nursing, and the main topic of today's presentation, which is environment and sustainability. So we're going to jump right into that program, and that'll be kind of the focus of what we're going to talk about today. Once I talk about this program, then we'll talk a little bit about admissions, we'll talk a little bit about money, and then if you have any questions after, we can certainly address those. So diving right in on environment and sustainability, this is actually a relatively new program. Up until around 2017, I believe, we did have what we call the Bachelor of Resource Management. However, that program and the Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Studies have since been consolidated into the BES, the Bachelor of Environment and Sustainability. It's a fairly wide it covers a wide spectrum of different topics, and within the degree, you can kind of branch in between the two subjects that the program originally consists of, environmental studies and resource management. Through your coursework, you'll cover the sciences, geography, economics, sociology, political science. You'll get into the sciences, biology, and chemistry. There's a fairly wide spectrum of different things that you'll be able to cover, so you'll have lots and lots of opportunities to kind of see around and kind of dip your hand into quite a few pots in terms of material. just to kind of give you an idea of what it does, it equips students with the tools and critical thinking skills necessary to make decisions regarding how we use the environment. Basically, all we're saying there is, like you're going to be able to critically assess environmental needs, environmental impact, all these different little pieces of environment sustainability that are necessary when you're working in that field. It's ideal if you're looking for, solutions basically to problems that the environment is facing. Obviously, the environment is a major topic of discussion right now with, the threat of climate change and dwindling resources. We want to make sure that, the future is prepared and our future workers are prepared to deal with these sorts of things moving forward, and that they're equipped to work in positions where they can make meaningful and significant changes to to all the different factors that environmental change affects. I'm just going to take one moment here. I'm getting a notification on my screen. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Slight interruption there. So yeah, and again, as I mentioned earlier, it is a holistic approach to environment sustainability. Like I said, you're going to put your hand in a very wide variety of pots, depending on the type of approach you want to take to environment and sustainability. If you want to take the policy sort of perspective, then your focus is obviously going to be on economics, geography, sociology. If you're looking more at the scientific side, then you can kind of branch into chemistry, biology, a little bit of resource management, and maybe as an alternative, maybe you don't even want to do the BES. Maybe you want to take the Bachelor of Science in Environmental Sciences. That might be an alternative for you as well. So there's a lot of different pieces that go into it. So obviously, like any degree, you're probably wondering, okay, what does a BES actually get me? Where, what can a BES do for me as a student? In terms of careers, like I said, because it's so holistic and it's got such a wide variety of different routes, there's really a lot of different ways you can go. So you may find yourself working for the government, for example, in resource management or in environmental policy, whether that's in, working out in the fields, in a mine or in a forestry, the forestry sector, that sort of thing, working in a more hands-on way, or working in an office, developing policies for these companies to make sure that they, that they're following regulations and that, they're able to sustain the usage of the resources that they work in. You may be doing third-party consulting. Maybe you work for an environmental firm that companies reach out to ensure that they're meeting the environmental standards set by the government. Perhaps you work in environmental education. For example, in Newfoundland in particular, we have a company called Conservation Corps of Newfoundland and Labrador. They are one of the largest youth employers in the province. Their goal basically is to send educators into the school system and teach young people about, how do we as individuals work towards a safer and more sustainable society, and how do we use the environment in a positive way to ensure a positive future for ourselves. And then of course you have journalism, research, non-governmental organizations. Like I said, because it's a holistic degree, you're getting a wide variety of exposure to different things. You can take this basically into any other field and have that sort of experience built up from your degree. Perhaps also you might want to take it into graduate studies. Again, the fields are all listed there on the on the slide that's on the screen. Just speaking from a Grenfell perspective, as I mentioned, we do offer a few graduate programs at our school. One of those programs is actually a Master of Arts in Environmental Policy. I won't be going too much into that, but again, if you do have any questions about that, you can contact sgs@mun.ca. This degree is a great way to kind of bridge into that program because it's a direct connection into environmental policy and will well prepare you for that field. So I will talk a little bit about admission. So on the slide here, I only have the Mexican national requirements, which is a minimum of 80 in your required subject areas. Those required subject areas are English, math, a lab science, a language or social science, and then one additional elective. In addition to that, you will need to present proof of English proficiency. Right now, IELTS is typically the most common way that students will do this, with a 6.5 overall being required or a 6 in reading and writing. However, we also do accept Duolingo and TOEFL. Duolingo needs a minimum score of 115. TOEFL needs a minimum score of 79, with 20 in reading and writing, 17 in listening and speaking. If you can't meet the English proficiency requirement, we do also offer ESL Bridging, which is basically 1 to 2 semesters of just pure ESL study. You'll study grammar, vocab, the 4 skills, all these sorts of things, as well as slang and literature and all the other little tiny aspects of language that are required when you're trying to build your proficiency. And then upon completion of that, you will be able to apply for direct undergrad studies. So there's a few options there. If you did study in the IB system as opposed to the Mexican national system, the minimum score requirement would be 24 in your IB diploma, of course, with coursework in those 5 subject areas that are listed there. One thing I will note, the admission process, it does cost 120 Canadian dollars to apply. When you submit your documents, normally you would have to mail in physical copies of your documents to the school. However, in light of COVID-19, we are accepting digital copies of your documents, your transcripts or your English proficiency, etc. However, they must be emailed to our admissions office by the issuing institution. So for example, maybe your high school guidance counselor or your principal or someone of that sort, if they can email our admissions office with your results, then we will accept that in light of, or in lieu of a physical copy mailed directly. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind there as well. I'll just address the student residences very quickly. I won't talk about the St. John's campus residences. This is just for the Grenfell campus because I am here, like I said, talking about that campus mainly. We have 3 types of accommodations: the Arts and Science residence, the Res Complex, and the Chalet Apartments. As a first-year student, you're only going to be eligible for the Arts and Science residence as well as the Residence Complex. However, if you apply for student housing by March 1st, you are guaranteed a position in housing. Even if you don't have your letter of offer yet, you can still put in that application. I absolutely encourage you to do that, to put in that application for housing before March 1st, because if you wait until after March 1st, you do risk being waitlisted. And if you're waitlisted, you may not get into housing and you may have to find off-campus accommodations. Off-campus accommodations are okay. That's not a problem. You can certainly live off-campus and study with us. However, in terms of cost, it will be significantly more. So with studying, living on campus, you're looking at about $3,000 for a year of those arrangements. Whereas off campus, you're looking at probably upwards of about $700 to $800 a month just for rent, then $100 for utilities, $100 for Wi-Fi. You have to furnish the apartment. You have to get transportation to and from. There's lots of different costs that get factored in, and living on campus will cost about half as much as living off campus. There are meal plans available, but they're not required, so you can certainly avail of those. The big thing with housing with us is that all of our rooms are semi-private, meaning you have your own private bedroom, where you share a porch and a bathroom with one other person. You share your kitchen with the floor, but your bedroom is just yours. So you have your bed, your desk, and your own personal space. It's not shared with anyone else. It's very private, very, you're able to kind of maintain that degree of privacy that a lot of students really like to have, especially when they're completing their studies. Once you get beyond your first year, you do have access to the Chalet Apartments as well, which are 4-bedroom apartments where you only share your space, including 2 bathrooms and your kitchen with 3 other roommates. Usually you also select those roommates, so that is an option to look forward to once you get past your first year. So money, this is the last topic I'm going to address. The big advantage with studying at Memorial University is that we do have the lowest tuition cost for international students in Canada right now. Tuition for 1 year of academic study is around 11,460 Canadian dollars. Factoring in your accommodations and your meals together, you're probably looking at the range of about $10,000. Ancillary fees, which includes like your student union fees, your health insurance, that sort of thing, you're looking at around $1,200. Typically, for 1 academic year, I would say a safe estimate for budget is between 21 and 23,000 Canadian dollars. You may actually be able to get to have a year less than this. I've seen budgets as low as maybe $18,000, but typically 21 to 23,000 is what we recommend for students starting new at Memorial, for 1 year of academic study. So that would be 1 year, pretty much everything from your tuition, ancillary fees, books, supplies, meals, accommodations, day-to-day living, everything. 21 to 23,000. We also offer entry scholarships between 3 and actually it's been updated since this slide, between 3 and 12,000 Canadian dollars. Typically, those go to students who are upwards of 90%. We don't set a lower academic threshold, so just having a 90% doesn't guarantee that you will get the scholarships, but that's typically a lower threshold for them. So I do encourage you, if you do have high grades, that you think about that, when choosing your schools, because we do have those scholarships available. The way that scholarship awarding works is it's exclusively based on academic merit. So you don't need to apply for the scholarships. When you apply with us, you're automatically evaluated as long as you apply before March 1st. So March 1st, is the priority deadline for applications. It's also the deadline, as I said, for the priority deadline for housing. So keep that in mind. So that is kind of just the very fast version of the Bachelor of Environment and Sustainability, as well as Grenfell and Memorial more generally. I will leave this up on the screen while we jump into the Q&A. My contact information is on the top there, and you can contact me anytime for any reason. If you're looking for a St. John's program, I am also able to address questions about those. However, I do encourage you to contact the St. John's campus directly if your program isn't offered at Grenfell, just because it's a lot easier to cut out the middleman if there's any questions that you have that I'm not able to answer myself. So I guess I will hand the floor back, and if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. It was really an amazing presentation, and I think every member attendee really appreciate that. And we have just a few questions. The first one, if you could repeat the mail address, but now we are seeing that, so there is no problem about that.
Perfect.
And we have another question from Alicia Valdez. How does the off-campus accommodation works? Does Memorial University have agreements with families, hotels, apartments, residents?
So we don't have any agreements with any off-campus accommodations. That said, if you are struggling to find off-campus accommodations, you can write our international department. I don't have the email on the screen here, but it's international@grenfell.mun.ca, just like my email there. If you write them, they have some folks who basically are, their role is providing services to international students. Reach out to them, and they're able to basically go in and help you find anything you might need. They'll walk you through the process of getting an apartment. Maybe you're having difficulty, talking with the landlord or something of that sort. There are services available in that sense that you can reach out to, and they'll assist you with finding it. We don't have any agreements, unfortunately. There's no like designated off-campus residence for students. Like I said, I do recommend on campus just because you do get much cheaper living costs. And the other thing is that you can avail of some of the on-campus services, especially as a first-year student, maybe, the winter clothing drive, some of the activities, some of the social events. It's a lot easier to get involved with that kind of stuff when you live on campus. Prior to this job, I actually worked for student housing myself, and I can tell you that student housing, because of the way that they offer events and the way that they offer services within housing, housing at Grenfell is much more familial, I'll say, than a typical traditional university. People tend to be much closer, much more intimate with one another in the sense of a social gathering.
Yes, thank you very much. And we have another question. This one is an anonymous attendee, but he or she asked, can I work while I'm studying, or what type of jobs I can get after my career or during my career?
Absolutely. So as an international student studying in Canada, whether you're studying in Newfoundland or in Ontario, BC, does not matter where you're studying. As long as you meet the government regulation, which is to be a full-time student, you are able to work up to 20 hours off campus or an unlimited number of hours on campus. Typically, most students will find employment off campus in their first year, maybe in the restaurant industry, service industry, retail, that sort of thing. Typically, you'll make around minimum wage in those sorts of jobs. I believe minimum wage right now is around 12 Canadian dollars an hour. I'm not sure the exact number, but that's roughly what you would make for off-campus work. On campus, there's a wide variety of employment options for you. just to kind of name a few. I will say, before I jump into the list, usually students in their first semester have a little bit of difficulty with on-campus employment, just because you typically need to get your name known, and you want to be nominated by professors and that sort of thing. But once you get to your second semester, most international students will find employment either in the campus library, the campus bar, whether as a bartender or security, working for the campus dining hall, as a research assistant, teaching assistant, language lab assistant, science lab assistant. And there's two jobs in particular that I often encourage international students to look at. Number one is English as a second language discussion leading. That's actually how I got my start with working with international students, was in ESL. Effectively what ESL discussion leaders do is, for a couple hours a week, they will work with their fellow international students, particularly those who are here to learn and develop their English skills, and basically just be a conversational partner for those students and help them along with their English proficiency. You're not an English teacher in that case, but of course, if you are interested in teaching and that sort of thing, it is a good opportunity to kind of use that as a gateway to education. Yeah, exactly. The other type of employment that I often encourage international students to look at, and especially international students over domestic students, is working with student housing as a residence advisor or chalet advisor. Because with those jobs, in addition to your semesterly stipend, you also get free housing. So that will cover one of your biggest costs for the year. The other big advantage with student housing is that the training that you get with student housing it's not comparable to anything else, any other kind of on-campus employment, because you get physical health first aid training, mental health first aid training, conflict resolution, diversity training, you name it. If you're looking at anything in counseling, in government work, in teaching, in any of these areas, having that student housing experience on your resume looks amazing. So I definitely encourage that. The other thing with that is that even though international students are only about 10% of our total student population, around 30% of the students that we hire for student housing are international, because obviously you're dealing with a lot of students who are maybe feeling homesick, who are dealing with kind of new environments, and who knows how to deal with a new environment better than an international student. So really, international students are definitely high demand for the housing job, so I encourage that. Typical payment for an on-campus job usually is in the range of $14 to $16 an hour, although that does fluctuate from year to year depending on the type of position that you're looking at. I just noticed in the Q&A box, 12 Canadian dollars per hour. Yes, that is the hourly rate.
Average.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we just have one last question on the chat. And if you can talk just a little bit about the graduate program that has environmental and sustainability, because you mentioned it. So I think they are some kind of interested in that.
Yeah, so I to be quite honest with you, I'm not very knowledgeable on it myself because I only represent undergrad studies, but I can give you what I do know. It is a 2-year program in environmental policy. There is also a science route in boreal ecosystems. I'm not sure if that is maybe something that you'd be interested in as well. But in terms of the policy route, I believe it's offered either as a thesis route or a oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of it. There's the thesis route and I believe the course route. I'm not sure exactly the specifications of it, but you do it within 2 years under the supervision of our staff on campus. And then at the end, when you complete your thesis, you submit it, and at the end, you have a full Master of Arts. Most students who do that often typically will go into work, directly in the government, working in the policy, like environment and policy sectors. So you're mostly looking at policy management there. Again, I don't have a whole lot of specific information. I do apologize there because it is a grad program. But if you contact sgs@mun.ca, they can certainly provide more specific information about that program for you.
Thank you very much. I think we don't have any more questions. Estudiantes, si tienen alguna otra pregunta, creo que ese es el momento. Si no, pues thank you very much, Thomas, for being here with us this first session. We're going to see you on the next one at 3 p.m. Mexico City time.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and we'll see you then.
See you then. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.